All right, at this point, I don't understand how anyone can even try to claim that Trump is not blatantly anti-Second Amendment or against our Constitution and civil liberties as a whole. Now, I'm not going to just sit here and spew my opinion. I'm going to go ahead and just play videos of what he said and he's done and let his own words speak for themselves. And while most of it's going to be in regards to the Second Amendment, he's going to touch on other issues as well. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. But anyway, here's his words, not mine.
I'm a big fan of the NRA, but I had lunch with them, with Wayne and Chris and David on Sunday, and said, it's time. We got to stop this nonsense. It's time. Like, take the firearms first and then go to court.
After Vice President Mike Pence suggested court procedures for removing guns from dangerous people, Trump caught him and many in the room off guard by seeming to dismiss due process.
I like taking the guns early, so you could do exactly what you're saying, but take the guns first, go through due process second.
President Trump also reiterated his support for raising the age limit to purchase some weapons.
It doesn't make sense that I have to wait till I'm 21 to get a handgun, but I can get this weapon at 18. I don't know. So I was just curious as to what you did in your bill.
We didn't address it as president. Look, I think
you know why? Because you're afraid of the NRA, right?
Mr. Trump said he's willing to act without the group's support.
I think you underestimate the power of the gun lobby.
They have great power over you people. They have less power over me.
But the president certainly committed himself to things that, if he puts his full weight behind it, can get done.
You'll never get this passed. If you add concealed carry to this, you'll never get it passed. Again, you'll never get it passed. I will tell you, background checks. I've called many senators last night, many congressmen, and Jeff and Pam and everybody in this room. I can tell you, Curtis, they're into doing background checks that they wouldn't be thinking about maybe 2 weeks ago. We're going to do strong background checks. We're going to work on getting the age up to 21 instead of 18. We're getting rid of the bump stocks.
The shooter used a silencer. Yeah. What is your view of silencers? Would you like to see those back?
Well, I'd like to think about it. I mean, nobody's talked about silencers. I don't like them at all.
Okay, so I know you couldn't hear the real question, but the question was this. It was the suspect in Virginia Beach shooting used a silencer on his weapon. Do you believe that silencers should be restricted? And well, the president's response was, I don't like them at all.
By the way, bump stocks, we're writing that out. I'm writing that out myself. I don't care if Congress does it or not. I'm writing it out myself, okay? And there's no bigger fan of the Second Amendment than me, and there's no bigger fan of the NRA. But today...
Bullshit!
A surprise. Speaking to U.S. state governors, Trump seemed to suggest a pushback against the NRA.
You guys, half of you are so afraid of the NRA. There's nothing to be afraid of. And you know what? If they're not with you, we have to fight them every once in a while. That's okay.
Met with NRA leaders just yesterday.
And I said, fellas, we got to do something. It's too long now. We got to do something. Well, one of the things I'd do, Ricardo, is I would do stop and frisk. I think you have to. We did it in New York. It worked incredibly well. And you have to be proactive.
And this should not really be a surprise to anyone, because anyone who did their research didn't have their head buried in the sand or up their ass or wherever the hell they had it buried, should have known this man's always supported gun control. He's been friends with Hillary, been friends with the Clintons for well over a decade. He said nothing but great things about them, but I won't digress on that in this video. But in his 2000 book, The America We Deserve, he said Democrats want to confiscate all guns, which is a dumb idea because only the law-abiding citizens would turn in their guns, and the bad guys would be the only ones left armed. The Republicans walk the NRA line and refuse even limited restrictions. Yeah, because I guess we don't have enough restrictions. And then he goes on to say, I generally oppose gun control, but I support the ban on assault weapons, and I also support a slightly longer waiting period to purchase a gun. So that's more gun control than we already have now. And the assault weapons ban was in place when he wrote that book. And he supported it. Nothing's changed. He lied to you. See, he started this statement off with claiming he generally opposed gun control, only to say he supports some of the worst forms of gun control, a semi-auto rifle ban. The guy is full of shit. And if you people don't wake the fuck up, it's just going to get worse. Nothing is going to get better. And the things I showed you, that's just the tip of the iceberg, the things that are actually on video of him saying. There's other issues, such as where he asked the Supreme Court to decline the Kettler case, a case essentially challenging the constitutionality of the National Firearms Act, specifically the unconstitutional restriction on suppressors. And yet he asked them to decline that case and let a military veteran who's with no criminal record just get screwed and thrown under the bus by getting convicted under that. Then you got his little darling daughter, Ivanka, encouraging other Republican legislators to embrace red flag gun confiscation law. You know, the daughter that everyone loves, and all his little Trump cults like, oh, Trump 2020 and, you know, Ivanka 2024 and all that bullshit. A Democrat president could not influence other Republican legislators at state and federal levels to embrace gun control. However, a Republican can, and specifically Lindsey Graham, when he was questioned about pushing red flag gun confiscation laws, he specifically mentioned Trump and said, well, Trump's pushing it. It's a good idea. Use Trump as political cover because Trump can do no wrong to the people who are hypocrites. We need to start putting liberty first. You know, and that's not even talking about the whole recent issue with the Q honey badger where the ATF's trying to reclassify that as an SBR. That's Trump's ATF doing that, and people continue to make excuses. And outside of the Second Amendment, there's where he keeps, you know, talking about draining the swamp. He's done the opposite. He continues to fill the swamp with people like Bill Barr. I mean, come on. And he's not the only one. There's a whole list of people he's continued to fill the swamp with. I don't have time to hit on every one of them right now. And then you got where he said he has total authority over states and locking down the economy or not to, because he has the total authority. That is very authoritarian and dictatorial. I don't care who says it. You know, he claims to be, you know, against wearing masks or mask mandates, yet his White House administration is pushing states like Tennessee to implement a statewide mask mandate. It's all rhetoric. It's all WWE style political theater where he goes out there and he argues with the Democrats and the media and pretends to be on our side, but it's all just a show. His actions speak louder than any words. His actions are against the Second Amendment. His actions are against individual liberty. His actions are against the Bill of Rights. His actions are against constitutionally limited government. It's called controlled opposition. That's what he is. To pacify people who disagree. You know, whether it's pushing gun control legislation or teaming up to raise the tobacco age to 21. It's all wrong. And I don't use tobacco, and I'm over 21, so it doesn't even affect me, but it's the principle of the matter as it grows the size and scope of government beyond the authority of the Constitution. It's more government restrictions and less freedom, even if it's not a freedom I agree with or want to use. So if we don't wake up and stop being hypocrites, we're going to lose our freedom.
And people love to make excuses for Trump and say, oh, well, there's more than just the Second Amendment. There's other issues. Well, that's true. But one, I've already briefly touched on where Trump has gone against individual rights in other areas and on other issues, and where he's went against constitutionally limited government in other areas. Two, what issue is more important than your basic individual rights? That should be the most important thing. You know, any government in the world or group of people can bribe you with money and comfort, but are you free? And out of your individual freedoms and rights, what right is more important than the ability to be armed and defend yourself, whether it be from criminals or tyrants? If you can't defend your other rights, they don't really matter. If you're not alive to enjoy them because you can't protect yourself, they don't really matter. And I believe Samuel Adams, one of our founding fathers, you know, said it best. If ye value wealth greater than liberty, the tranquility of servitude better than the animating contest of freedom, go home from us in peace. We seek not your counsel nor your arms. Crouch down and lick the hands which feed you, and let posterity forget that you were our countrymen. Now, I may have messed up a word somewhere there. I'm paraphrasing, but you should get the point. And people want to go, oh, well, what's better, Biden? You don't have to pick Biden. Stop being so easily manipulated and thinking there's two choices. I don't even feel comfortable voting for the Libertarian candidate
due to her support or sympathy for abortion and the communist Black Lives Matter rioters. It doesn't get much more basic of a violation of the non-aggression principle than the state-sanctioned murder of innocent children. God hates hands that shed innocent blood. It says that in the Bible. But I'm not going to digress into that topic right now. The point is, I get it. There isn't exactly a lot of good options out there for
candidates to vote for. But when did Americans become such cowards that we're just going to roll over and support somebody who promises to trample on our rights just a little more gently than the other guy? Sometimes you got to think about it strategically. There's a quote out there by Ron Paul, and I believe he said it best, that when the ideas of both parties are bad, sometimes the best thing you can hope for is that they keep fighting and get nothing done. Sometimes gridlock can be a friend of liberty. So even if Biden wins, oh well, as long as we all show up strong and vote Republican in the Senate and in the House races where they can keep the Senate and hopefully regain the House, then it really won't matter if Biden wins. But vote on principle. Vote for a third-party candidate. Vote for yourself. Vote for the Constitution Party candidate. But don't vote for tyranny.